What do you want from me? I'm just blood and flesh and bones. I'm not an answer.
Welcome to Mildly Entertaining at UNCW, the show where the Office of Military Affairs keeps you mildly entertained and more or less up to date on what's going on at UNCW. Your hosts are Joanna DeMott, the Military Liaison and Program Coordinator, and Melanie Nelson, the Military Student Services Specialist. Hello, Joanna. How are you today?
I'm great. I just got off a presentation to the Camp Lejeune Leadership Seminar group of amazing military spouses and 2 active duty service members on there. Even had some Army spouses and Coast Guard spouses. It was really great. My favorite word. How are you, Melanie?
I am also great, and I'm going to leave it at that. So why don't you go ahead and introduce our guest?
I'm super excited that we have Rob Rens, a Marine Corps veteran, risk management enthusiast, State Farm agent, and most importantly, aspiring surf bum. How are you today, Rob?
I am good. How are you ladies?
You know, we are always great, and that's how we roll on Mildly Entertaining. If you get any higher than great, that goes above the mild. And I know, Rob, we're going to have to tone it down because this is only mild entertainment, and I know that your level of entertainment is usually much greater than that.
I'll channel my inner mild-mannered man.
Excellent. Excellent. So our first question always is, what's your work situation like now? Has it changed since March? How are you? Have you done any changes? What's going on?
No, yes and no. So I'm in a little bit of a unique situation. We just launched this agency in January of this year. So I have the fun predicament of being a startup company in the middle of a pandemic. And so we adjusted on the fly, but the thing that I actually kind of like about what's happened, and I don't mean to sound insensitive when I say this, but it's forced me to go with my intuition, which was to go heavy digital, and that people wanted to interact with insurance companies in different ways. So this actually kind of forced what my gut instinct was. And honestly, it's paid off in the long run for us. And I believe it will continue to pay off in the long run. So the only thing that's really changed is how we market and how we interact with customers, honestly.
I've seen most of your videos, that at least the ones you post on LinkedIn, and they are really high energy. I wasn't sure what to expect today because they really bring it, and they're pretty amazing. I'm going to give you over to Melanie for a little while. She has some really great questions for you as well.
Okay.
Some very, very hard-hitting journalistic type questions. Are you ready for this? Number 1, what are you snacking on these days? What are you snacking on?
So I'm keto. I've been on the keto diet for almost 4 years. So typically I'll eat grass-fed beef sticks, or I'll eat pistachios and cashews. That's my snack food of choice.
Excellent, excellent. I do love it when someone has a very specific snack that they eat. Sometimes people are like, well, I don't really snack. And then they tell us about their eating plan and they actually just graze all day, and they're really just snacking nonstop.
I constantly consume food, but when it comes to my snacks, I'm very specific about what my snack choices are.
You know, I have found that there are some very successful people who do that. I believe Mr. Obama used to have 7 almonds for a snack in the evening, and it just, it helps to plan ahead and to be consistent, and it frees up creative thinking. Love it, love it. Okay, so you've been doing keto for about 4 years. Mm-hmm. Let's back up a bit, or maybe we're not backing up. I don't actually know. Your college experience. Mm-hmm. Talk us about snacking during college, but also the rest of your college experience.
Well, that was a different story because I started school late. So I joined the Marines in 2003. And then when I got off active duty in my last deployment, I started school in 2008. So I was 22, 23 and had a little bit of money. I'd already owned a home right off of campus, which was fantastic for the time. But what I ate was ramen noodles, and at the time, those Totino's pizzas were $1 a holler, so you could get 10 for $10. So I lived off of those 2 things, which aren't necessarily keto compliant any longer. So I had a bit of a unique college experience having deployed to Iraq and then starting school. And so I really treated college as if it was the next military objective to accomplish. And so I finished a 4-year degree in 3 years. I did the mini-mesters, the summer semesters. I crammed more learning into a small amount of time because I felt like I was behind and that I needed to get caught up. So yeah, it was kind of a unique experience because I didn't really have the typical college experience. It was like, okay, well, I did the military thing. I'm still in the reserves. Like, let's finish school and let's get into the corporate world. So I don't have any interesting stories from when I was in college.
You had your nose to the grindstone and you were working really hard. What's interesting about your story is that there are a lot of veterans just like you who kind of come in and you feel like you're behind the curve. And it's almost like when we were in the military, you kind of go through with a cohort, right? Like there are people that you encounter at different duty stations and it's always a competition of like who's getting promoted next and all these things and like who was able to get the highest score in the training school that you both showed up to, and then 2 years later as you're preparing for promotion you're going to another one and you're always like in the mix. So it's easy to start to feel like you're behind your year group or maybe you're ahead of the pack or whatever. And then you get into college and you think, oh, I'm older than the rest of the club. That means like I've really got to bring it. And so like you said, you packed in every mini mester, everything. And that was probably kind of fun, but it was also probably kind of like, oh my gosh, when is this going to be over?
Yeah. And I worked for the school that I was at. I mentored transitioning veterans when I am going into like my second year of school. And then I also did tutoring for the student athletes. And I worked a full-time or part-time job really, because I was using my GI Bill and everything. So it was like that 3 years, I don't remember hardly anything of it because it was so task oriented. Looking back on it, I would have liked to have slowed down just a little bit because the truth is I wasn't that far behind. And in a lot of what I do now in mentoring transitioning veterans is I tell them before you start the next thing, take a week, take a month, take 6 months, whatever's practical for you, chill out, re-assimilate with civilians, and then start the next thing. I just think that's better for your overall mental, physical, spiritual health to do that. So if I could tell myself anything from, 10 years ago, 12 years ago now, it would be that, like, just chill for a second, dude. Like, it's cool.
Pull a little Ferris Bueller and stop and smell the roses once in a while, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'm mixing up a quote there somewhere. Yeah, and that's the thing is like student veterans, you come in and you're like, I'm older than everybody else, which is not true, by the way. There are tons of non-traditional learners, but you feel like you're older than everybody else and maybe you're taller than everybody else because freshmen really are short. I'm just gonna put that out there. Even to me, they seem petite. And I'm not a tall person myself. But so you're looking at them and you're like, they're in a completely different world. And that's the thing, you're not competing with them because you are in a completely different world. We have many different, like, whatever alternate reality things you subscribe to in the fantasy or sci-fi world, it's all happening at once in this microcosm of the college campus, right? And it's hard to get people to understand that until you've had a semester or two to kind of like chill and be like, oh, I see. Also, what I'm loving about your college experience, and I'm going to pull some weird threads together here, so just go with me.
I will.
We always say that if you have something you want to get done, you give it to a busy mom, right? Like, because busy moms, they get stuff done and like, it might be too much, but they will figure out a way to make it happen. They get more than 24 hours out of every day because that's just what they do. Like, And so you were basically the equivalent of a busy mom when you were in college because you worked so many different jobs and were in class all the time. And you were probably not taking like a mere 12 credit semester. You probably took some 18 credit semesters just because you could and you thought that would be a better way to get through.
Yep. And you're spot on with that metaphor because my wife, we met in school and she was doing the same thing. She was preparing herself to be a busy mom because she was working 3 different jobs, going through nursing school. And now she works 3 different jobs. We have 2 daughters, 5 and 2. She's helping me launch this office. She's a nurse practitioner. So she's doing all of her stuff too. And you're right. I think she probably gets 30 hours of a 24-hour day at minimum. So that's not a weird thread to connect at all. I totally see your metaphor there.
Cool.
But you did bring up something, if I could just comment on it, about being in school and feeling like you're competing with other people. And I've been thinking a lot about this quote, that comparison is the thief of joy. And right now, with where I'm at as a business owner and trying to be a community leader who's just starting, it's very easy to look at somebody who's been doing something that you're doing and they're 10 years ahead of you. And you're thinking to yourself, why am I not there? Well, I've completely put that out of my life. And I'll tell you, it has relaxed me in such a way that's given me clarity of mind and allowed me to make the best decisions that's right for me, instead of trying to force what other people are doing. And if 35-year-old me could go back to 22, 23-year-old me and say, you're not competing with anybody in college. This is your experience. You're here to learn who you are and what you want to be and what impact you want to have on the world. Don't worry about how quickly you get through it. I felt like that would have taken a lot of that stress and anxiety that college students and post-military college students unnecessarily put on themselves.
I totally agree with that. You know, and I have a feeling that my students would probably listen to you more than they listen to me. Sometimes that happens. So if you're out there, students, just pretend that I said those things. I gave him a script and he said, that's what we think in the Office of Military Affairs. Take your time, do it right. You only get to do it once. Yes. Okay. So pulling more threads. What did you major in college, and how did it get you to where you are now as a business owner?
Yeah, so I went through the business program at Kennesaw State University, which is in North Metro Atlanta, and my specific degree is in communications. And I believe my field of study was public relations, and I have not used a single second of public relations skills in my entire career. And this was a lesson that I learned the hard way. At the time, there was a movie that was out where this guy, I believe it was, I think it was called Thank You for Smoking. And it had Aaron Eckhart in it, attractive blonde dude with the dimpled chin. And he was the spokesperson for the tobacco companies. And the way that they made him look in the movie was like, oh my gosh, I want to be the spokesperson for a company. I want to wear like the suit and tie and have all the great things to say right when, you know, something comes up. And so I thought that's what I wanted to do with my life. And I got on that course. And then when I got out, I realized as I was going through it, I was like, wow, I really don't like writing press releases. Like, this is incredibly boring stuff, but I was already so invested in it. And again, I didn't see the forest through the trees because it was a task that I had to get done. I just committed to it. Now, I did have the clarity to minor in something, which was US history, which I'm passionate about. I just love history. So I did, do something that I enjoyed. But looking back on it, the only practical thing that I gained from my college experience was the ability to communicate clearly with people. I took some marketing classes. I dabbled in public speaking. That was all part of the communications. All that benefited me. But the stuff that's on my degree, I don't do it. I've never used it. But that doesn't mean I didn't learn some good stuff. The lesson in that is I wish I had been more specific about who I wanted to be when I had grown up. And that's that time to separate between the military and the college, to think about who am I, what's my purpose, what's my why, what's my driving passion. And I probably would have gotten into a program that was more in line with what I do now, because it just took me more time to fall on what my purpose is. That's the only, it just took me longer to get there. So.
I mean, maybe it did and maybe it didn't. We'll never know for sure.
Oui.
I think, you talk about like, okay, so maybe you don't think you've ever written a press release, but you've written some emails for your business that basically amount to a press release, but you're excited about it. So it doesn't feel the same way as it felt when you were writing it for a grade, for a quick assignment. So I'm going to push back a little bit on your idea that you didn't actually use it, because in my experience, communication studies, whatever the focus was, you've used it. Like you said, you learned some things and you've put it to use, whether you're actually calling it by the same name or not. And I think it's just helpful to recognize, again, we don't really care what you want to major in when you come to school.
Mhm.
There are very few jobs out there that like require that very specific thing. Like, yes, okay, if you want to be a nursing practitioner, please, for the love of Pete, don't be a communications major. We're just gonna say, I think we're all comfortable with that assumption. But, you know, if you don't have that specific aspiration, that specific target in mind, then don't treat college like you're going after a target. Treat it like you're trying to get the education that will help you learn how to communicate whatever you end up wanting to do.
Yep.
So yes, man, I couldn't have planted you into this podcast any better if I had tried. Thank you for sharing your story, and I'm going to hand you back over to Joanna now.
All right.
I loved all of that. Falling on your purpose. I love it. What is your favorite part of what you do?
Favorite part of what I do. So I am a big fan of cashing emotional paychecks. And when in the line of when I did discover what it was that I wanted to do, and more importantly, why I wanted to do it, the first thing at the end of each day when my head hits the pillow, I want to feel like I made a difference in somebody's life. Now that can be for profit. I can get paid to do that, or I can not get paid to do that. But at the end of the day, if I can look at myself in the mirror and say, man, I had this person come to me with this problem, and I connected this dot and created this solution for them, that is what I want to do every day when my feet hit the floor. So cashing an emotional paycheck. And that's why I'm really deeply involved now that I've been super blessed in business and in life, and being able to give back through Suiting Warriors, which is a nonprofit that I'm on the board for. That is real and meaningful for me. And I really, really, really enjoy doing that. And it keeps me moving forward in a lot of different ways.
And we'll talk a little bit about that event, because I heard from people in all different kind of spheres that they really enjoyed that event and thought it was super worthwhile. Well, let's just talk about it. So
Okay.
The last event that you did, tell me a little bit about it.
Well, I think the biggest challenge for transitioning military is crafting their personal brand. And a lot of things go into that. And a lot of it is determining your why. But it's also feeling some of the feelings that I felt, which was I need to get caught up, or I need to get noticed, and all this unnecessary pressure that we put on ourselves. And I wanted to try and eliminate some of that stress and anxiety for as many people in our community as we could. So what we did is, through Suiting Warriors, a photographer in town by the name of Marcus Anthony, and a lot of other great veteran business owners and community leaders, I asked all of them to come together for a one-day thing where we would provide a suit, shirt, tie, dress shoes, professional attire, male and female, for military veterans and their spouses, and give a free headshot, and then teach them transition tips, some of the stuff that we're talking about right now, you know, how to be at ease with yourself. And so we just put all that together, and we had almost 65 people come to our office, and we were able to bless each and every one of them, and hopefully intersect at a point in their life that I didn't get, you know, when I transitioned in 2010, you know, and tell them, just here's what we learned. Take it for what is practical for you, but this is what we learned, and this is what we recommend, and this is hopefully how we can improve with future generations.
I really like that. You're a busy, busy man. I can hear that phone going off. And so
I'm going to silence it because I meant to turn it off. All right. Yeah. I guess I don't know how to silence my own.
That's okay.
There we go. Okay.
It's all right. We won't keep you too much longer, but I want,
okay.
before we do wrap up, I just want to know if there are any misconceptions about what you do, whether that's as a State Farm agent or with Suiting Warriors.
Misconceptions. Yeah, I think there's always misconceptions about every industry. You know, I think insurance salespeople, and I don't consider myself a salesperson, I think have earned a lot of the criticism that we receive. You know, and I think about in an area that we're in that's very prone to hurricanes, it's at those moments when things are really, really bad for the community that somebody in my industry can step up or step out. And if I've seen it on more occasions where people, have lost everything, and the insurance company that they're with cannot be found and does not do the hard work to put those people back together. And I think that's a mantle that I carry as a member of this community and as an insurance agent. And so I do think that there is that conception of like, okay, where's my money going? And what do I get if the worst thing in the world happens to me? And will I have somebody, frankly, on my side, my team, helping to put all that back together? And so that's kind of what I want to represent, which is sort of the antithesis, I think, to the pejorative of what an insurance person is. Now, when it comes to Suiting Warriors, that's all sunshine and rainbows because we just get to be Santa Claus. We get donations from great retailers all across the world, and yeah, I don't think that there's any misconceptions about the work that we do there.
Excellent. I like that, sunshine and rainbows. Anytime you can provide somebody with professional attire, and the headshot is huge.
Oh, it's massive.
It just
Massive.
changes your whole perspective.
Marcus Anthony, he's local, he's in downtown. He did my headshots. He's awesome. And I know what he charges for headshots, and for him to give that much of his time and his skill and talent is a true blessing to the people that are receiving it.
Absolutely. Is there anything you'd like our listeners to know that we haven't discussed? Anything coming up? That last event took so much time and planning that we are going to recalibrate and restock. And we're very excited about what 2021 is going to bring, because we're putting together ideas on how we can take what we did 2 Saturdays ago and scale it and get more involvement in our community, and engage more veterans, more spouses, more soon to transition military, but also those concentric circles around it that are veteran owned businesses or whatever. We just really want to light this community on fire in a very meaningful way. There's enough bad stuff that's happening out in the world, and I would prefer to be the antithesis of that. And I think there's ways that we can do it with some concerted effort. So nothing that I'm willing to say that we are working on stuff to be determined and announced at a later date, but 2021 is going to be a year we hope that is a real turning point for our local veteran community, their spouses, and everybody kind of around it. We just, we want to make a huge impact in the best way possible. So we're pretty pumped about next year. So we will absolutely stay tuned, and I will tell our audience, please follow Rob or connect with Rob on LinkedIn, because he posts some awesome videos. So even if you just need to pick me up, just see what's going on. He's a great connection. You are a great connection, Rob.
Thank you. We just try to give big virtual hugs every single day.
And you succeed. I want to thank you so much for coming on with us today.
You are very welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming by. All the virtual hugs. And this has been an episode of Mildly Entertaining at UNCW, and we will see you on the internet. Thank you for listening to Mildly Entertaining. Our intro music comes from the band Blue Turnip and their song, What Do You Want From Me? You can find their EP, Songs from the Root Cellar, on Bandcamp, iTunes, Amazon, and Spotify. For more information, you can go to blueturnipmusic.com.